Sometimes you talk about reform while you actually might have to rebuild from scratch some of the institutions. And it also means that you might find that there are functions, for example, if we look at the one of the three dimensions, you talk about the political, the holistic and the technical dimensions of JSSR, on Justice Security Sector Reform. But then you also see that if you talk about holistic, you need to have certain mechanism for coordination and finding synergies between the subsectors of the justice and security sector. And they might exist, but they seldom meet, and there is harsh competition. There will be harsh competition in any country between state institutions and different ministries. But you can be fooled by the existence of these coordination mechanisms while they're really not functioning at all. So I think that's one challenge, to see behind the surface or below the surface, and understand that you need to, as I referred to before, find that driving force, find that spirit and that common theory of change, to see that those mechanisms are activated. So one lessons learned, I think, not just from Central America, maybe Honduras, is that the issue of civil service reform is key for any success. Because if the state has low capacity, if there's high level of corruption, meaning that you have low integrity, organizational integrity, if you come in with a project or program and you want to build capacity, the likelihood of success is quite low. Because it's like building a castle of sand on the shore, and when the tide comes, everything is gone. And looking at reviewing projects and programs in Guatemala or El Salvador and Honduras, which we have done and others have done, we see that a lot of the investments from donor has really not resulted in sustainable change. There might have been change, but it's not sustainable, or there is no change. So if you don't take into account this state fragility, of course, you will not have success. So justice and security sector reform needs to be viewed within a larger context, and part of that context is civil service reform. So when the drug trade shifted from Bolivia, Peru and Colombia through the Caribbean towards the US and Europe, and then took the route instead through Central America, there was some that said that this was one of the reasons why the justice and security sector and other state institutions were weakened, because of drug trade. But there are also other analysts that say that the reason why the drug trade shifted was that the state institutions were so weak. So what we see now is maybe both effects. Might have been the reason why the drug trafficking changed route, but it's also affecting the justice and security sector. But it's also affecting the political level. So corruption has increased in Central America. We have now one president indicted in Guatemala. We have a lot of other cases of high-level government officials being indicted for corruption. And we see the drug networks penetrating down from Mexico into Guatemala and Honduras. And of course, if you then speak about justice and security sector reform, and you talk about this as a political, holistic and technical process, the conditions for change are changed. And you have a white elephant in the room, which is the incentives of the funds flowing in from the drug trade. And we all know the histories from Colombia, we know the histories from Peru, how that affected governance. So of course, you can't pursue justice and security sector reform without taking into account the need for civil service reform, the effects of corruption and drug trade, and of course how that affects the ability to formulate and have consensus around public policies between the political parties.